Hi, today we're going to have a Security 101 for your SaaS or membership site. So if you're going to use Wized for your SaaS or membership site and you are thinking that it is a good idea to set visibility for certain protected items or to use, some of their auth flows to just cover up items that are being rendered by Webflow CMS or that are static content, I will have to tell you that's a very bad idea, because Webflow is built to deliver the content of your site directly in the HTML, even if you're using CMS as your database, which it's not. So this means Webflow is doing everything to get all your content out there super easy so that you have great SEO. Now, this is the benefit of Wized, is that it, if it's rendered by Wized, you're going to have not that great SEO, but not that great SEO means protected pages. Not that great SEO means security for your content. This is the benefit where, rendering the initial content using JavaScript gets beneficial. Think of it like this. You're going to create let's say you're going to create a membership site with code snippets, right? And it's just a blog post and people are going to get code snippets. Now, you just add this in Webflow CMS and you use a tool like Memberstack or Wized or etc. or whatever is out there to protect those pages. If you disable JavaScript, those pages will still be accessible rather easy. Now, I want to show you how easy that can happen, and it's pretty simple. For example, in this example, I'm just using Wized for this, and I'm, hiding an element in here, which is something that normally happens with those tools, and I'm also going to show you how to prevent this. So I'm going to go to Inspect Elements, and, this is even a good setup because it uses a no script element, but I just simply go to Settings. I'm going to go to Disable JavaScript, and I'm going to reload this page. Now you see Wized is not working. Wized is not hiding the element. But, I'm smart, so I added a no script tag, a no script element in here, which will be an element blocking the content when there is no JavaScript. This is great for most of the use cases, but if somebody already did this to disable JavaScript, that person knows that they just have to click in on Inspect, close this part, click on Delete after selecting this element, and they have right in here their top secret content unprotected, because this content is delivered from my Webflow site. So if you're going to go into your Webflow site and you add protected content in here, Zoom links in the static HTML, that is a very bad idea, because that will be then also rendered, right, for SEO purposes. This is how a website works. You're serving an HTML file, and if that HTML file contains your protected content, that user will be able to access that protected content in the HTML file that was delivered by your browser. So this is where we want to use JavaScript to render those protected text, using, an authenticated endpoint to only render this text for the user. So even adding things like a no script tag, which I can show you how to do, is not a real protection. Now, I want to say that most of the times you won't need this because your audience will not be that technical. But if, in our example, we're going to build a community site for developers to give them, pre-written code, they know how to use Inspect Elements, they know how to use the console, and maybe a tougher audience. So what we want to do is I want to still show you how this works. So I have this blocker element, and let's just turn this into a div. You're going to add like a div block over your content here, and you have to give this then as a custom element the attribute of no script. You can style it before as a div. Once it is no script, you won't see it anymore. And then when people disable JavaScript, they will see this blocked page, right? They will see this This is the page that we just configured. But they can just click it away. This is still not protected, right? This makes it easier, like easier to not get that. It makes it a little bit harder to access the content. But if somebody came that far to disable JavaScript, they are profound to also get away of that content and access the content if you serve it using CMS or HTML. Because if you create a Webflow site and you add any text in that text, that content that you add is part of the HTML file getting delivered to your browser. So that is already on the device. Users can access that. The same with CMS. CMS is, a dynamic form of static site generation, meaning that they also will serve the whole blog article that is supposed to be protected as an HTML file to improve your SEO. Generally speaking, every tool that improves your SEO will reduce your protection, right? Now, Wized does a not that great job on SEO because it is protecting your content. And I want to show you today, and this is also probably a must-watch for all Memberstack users, because now we can, remove the risk of our Memberstack content being seen by people just disabling JavaScript from 100%, if people go that far, which I can tell you 99% of your users will not be knowing what inspect elements is. But by the way, if they know, we can reduce it to 0 because we can add authentication inside of that. So what we're going to do here is let's just remove any actions we have to render this content here. And instead of, rendering the top secret content using HTML or, the CMS, we're just going to, add placeholder content in here. Let's do text. And we are going to render this content from an endpoint after the user authenticated. That way, we're only going to deliver this protected content when the user has enabled JavaScript and is successfully authenticated. And we're going to need a server to do that, which is, it sounds more high level than it is. So in this example, we're just going to add, a Wized attribute on this content that is our top secret content. I'm going to add Wized and secret content, just like that. And then we are just going back to Wized and we are just, reloading this and we are setting text in here. So in order to do that, we need to make an API call to our backend. In this example, I'm going to use Xano. We got the Memberstack integration. Woohoo! I'll be using the REST. I'll be writing return. And I built like an endpoint in Xano that when I add my authentication token in here, it will serve the top secret content, which is very important. You always want to use authenticated endpoints to serve secret content. You can build an endpoint to serve all the secret content of your page, because that way, if the user is not passing the protection on the backend, we're not going to set any text. That text is not getting delivered. Because think of it like this: if we deliver the content within the HTML file, the content is delivered. What we want to do here is we want to deliver an empty HTML file with placeholder text, and then when the user is authenticated, use JavaScript to manipulate that HTML file to then add the content. That way, we only deliver our protected content after the user is authenticated. So this is what we're going to do here. And you can refine the endpoint more. This is just a very basic example. This is just an auth.me endpoint. If you use Xano, you want to use an auth.me endpoint, a little bit configured here to just return top secret content as text. So we're going to go to Wized. I'm going to paste this in, and I need to add the /data in the request so I have a modular way of working with that throughout multiple things I want to add on my project. Let's call this data, just like that. I'm going to add Xano, return, just like that. Here we go. This is a GET request, and now if I'm going to try to get the content, it will say unauthorized. So I need to add the header of authorization, return, and The last time I did authorization was some time ago, so I think I need to still do bearer if I do the cookie, but just to make sure, let's see if this works. Oh no, actually I don't need to do bearer. It's enough if I just do the cookie. That's great. So now, as you can see, only if we are authenticated. Why are we authenticated? Because I have a cookie. Now, I'm not going to talk about how we're going to get the cookie. This is something we have to create on the back end when the user logs in and is authenticated. This is just a general overview of, once we have that set up, because I assume that you watch this video when you already have a auth flow authenticated and you watch this video to make it more secure. So I assume that you already know how to set a cookie, but I'll be also making videos on how to do all of those things. But, for example, if you do Memberstack, they already give you a cookie and all of that. But what we're going to do here is we're going to pass this cookie in the get call as authorization. And now when we load this, we get our secret content delivered securely. Then I'm going to go to my, set content, secret content. I'm going to do set text, plain text, return. Here you go. And I will be going to my data, the securely served data. And then we will see this is how I'm going to deliver my secret content, when the user is logged in. And then, I want to load content on page load, or in your case, after the auth me request, or the probably your auth me has finished, or if no cookie was set. In this example, I'm going to do event, trigger custom condition, return, and I want to do if cookie dot length is greater than 0, which is true. So only if we have a cookie set, if the user is logged in, I want to then perform the request of getting the data, the secret content. Now, the cool thing is this request will only be triggered if the cookie length is greater than 0. Now, your user may log in and try to add a fake cookie. So this is your first protection, which can be passed. But then the request itself is going to your backend. Your backend knows who is paying and who is not paying. So then when you pass on that cookie for the user in an auth me endpoint, if I were to add a stop and debug in here, for example, let's do this. Let's go to users. Let's save this. I know from this cookie that I'm passing on here, who is authenticated, that it's me. And I could do something very simple like this. I could add a boolean of paid in my backend. And let's say I am paid, right? Then I could go to Xano and I can add like a precondition in here. Let's do precondition, just like that. And if this fails, I want to return an error message of blocked, just like that. This way I'm blocking that content server side, which is the 100% secure way. So, I got that. Let's just add this down here. Let's just close this. Xano froze a little bit with the cookie part. Here you go. I'm going to copy this part. Oh, I'm not returning that, so I have to modify the output. I want to get the paid status. Let's save this. Now I see paid is true. I'm going to copy this, going to go to the precondition. I'm editing that precondition. I'm going to users. That is the variable where I have that data in. I'm going to define the subpath. I'm going to look for paid. So this is where we define. This is just helping you figure out the dot notation. I want to do paid needs to be true, right? I only want to serve this content when the user has paid. I'm going to save this. And now I'm going to, if I remove the stop and debug here, which is a great tool to help you debug those things, I'm only serving the content, when the user paid. But now what happens when the user stops paying? And you can have your webhooks do that or Memberstack. I will be blocked. I will not get that secret content delivered. Now, this is the only secure way to do those things. So we just want to publish this endpoint. And right now we're not paid, so we should not be getting that content, and we are not getting that content. Now, we want to refine what we're saying in here, so let's go to our action, and let's add like a little conditional statement in here. So let's add if And this is very simple. If open close brackets, and now I want to look for the scenario where the user actually is authenticated. And this is when the request equals 200. Because if we go to this endpoint here, we know this precondition will throw in an error. If we have an error, it is not 200. If the user doesn't pay, we're going to get an error, meaning the response will not be 200. Meaning, if it is 200, that means the user paid and there was no error. So we want to look if the data.status equals 200, open curly brace, close curly brace, return data. Right now we're not, close curly brace. Right now we're not returning anything because this scenario is not being met. So then we have else. If anything else besides 200, we know that we're going to get an error. Otherwise, we will not be getting 200. And then we're going to select the data.message. Because if we're going to get the error, the structure is a little bit different. So this is why we need to do something like this. You could also use variables to unify those things if you want to and just have like the same data output. But this is the simpler way. Meaning if it is 200, we're going to return r.data.data because this is where, the success message will be located. If there's no success message, the syntax changes because r.data.data would in this case be the whole object, because since this request failed, we're returning an object with reasoning why it failed. So we don't want to give the user the reasoning, that doesn't matter. We just want to give them the message of blocked. And in this case, if I write return, we're going to get that blocked message. So now if I'm going to reload the page and I am not paid, I will get the blocked. And of course, since we're serving the HTML, it takes, we have some content flashing here because it serves an HTML file. But the important thing is it serves this HTML with placeholder text. And you can use Wized cloak to hide that. I made a whole video on that. Please check that out in the description. But the important thing is that the initial HTML being delivered to you doesn't contain any protected content. And you're using your backend to add a server-side component that will check if the user is authenticated to then and only then deliver the appropriate content. Now, the appropriate content, if you're not paying, is blocked. But the moment you are paying, and it happens all in real time, the moment you are paying, your top secret content protected from your database is delivered straight to you. This is very important if you want to make sure that your intellectual property is protected and you have a somewhat technical user base. You want to implement a server-side solution like this to protect your content and to protect your IP. Now, to everybody using Memberstack and CMS, this is now, the birth of this integration here that lets you add Memberstack, and I'm at the wrong thing, that lets you add Memberstack natively to Wized is a wonderful solution to protect your intellectual property and to also extend your CMS limits. Because if you're going to have a membership site, you don't need your private posts to be SEO indexable, so they can come from your database. And the big benefit of delivering those from your database is you only deliver content when the user is authenticated, meaning bad actors will not be able to access your content. And this is why I think this Memberstack and Webflow integration is not just important to make Wized, this Memberstack and Wized integration is not just super important for Wized users to make it easier for them to, build authentication flows. This is also very important for Memberstack users who are building SaaS businesses, who are building communities, who are selling their knowledge, and they need that extra level of protection. And Wized is here, the facilitator for your service, to add this extra level of protection in a low/no-code way. So I think really combining Memberstack and Wized is what we have all been waiting for, and it's finally here. And this is not just great news for the Wized users, this is even greater news, I would say, for the Memberstack users, because it adds security on top of your membership website. And I'm not trying to say Memberstack is a bad solution. I love Memberstack. I build stuff with Memberstack that just uses CMS and Memberstack because I didn't care if somebody, I always had the philosophy, if somebody is as smart as going inspect elements, disabling JavaScript, they deserve my content for free. But of course, not everybody has that philosophy, and for the ones that don't have that philosophy and they want to protect their content at all costs, this is a great solution. And, for just $9 for Wized, adding this super professional layer of security is a no-brainer. And as you can see, you can just do this super simple. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're going to protect your content and that you're going to serve it server-side. You're also going to avoid CMS limitations in Webflow. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for all your wonderful support. I really appreciate that, and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. And also, if you have any questions, I know there are a lot of new people now coming to Wized, please put them down in the comments. I know I talked a little bit fast, but I wanted to get this done in under 20 minutes for you because I don't want to bore you with a 1 hour video, because I could certainly go into all the details in 1 or 2 or 3 hours even. But please let me know if I forgot anything. If you have any questions, I'm here all day and night to answer your questions. Please put them down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate that, and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.